Long. The first thing on the agenda is no parking signs. This is an issue that has come up numerous times, and there's events going on in certain areas. And now we have the new restaurant on the corner of West Neck and New York Avenue that we need to address. So we asked the chief and Sergeant Rando to come up with a plan for us. Anthony, I don't know if you want to come up and tell us what our thoughts are.
So I met with Steven about a month ago. We went over the 3 locations that we wanted to address regarding no parking. Those locations were the intersection of 114 and Waring, 4-way intersection at West Neck, New York Avenue, and Menantic Road. And the last one was roadway along South Ram Island Drive.
That's past the restaurant.
Right, so it'd be south.
Over the road, yeah.
Right.
Curves.
So, Kristen, you gonna be able to put that up? Can you put up the IPA intersection first?
Yeah, and just so you know, the highway superintendent joined us, and
Right.
he concurs with
Okay.
recommendations of Sergeant.
Okay.
So at all of those locations, we've posted in the past temporary no parking signs that look like this.
Yep.
And the original location was to address the overflow from White Oak. Once they opened up in operation a couple of years ago, they had multiple vehicles parked, causing a hazard at that intersection. Every year, or at least during their major events, we've posted that intersection. So we wanted to make that permanent. What we also did when we were there, we looked at if there was going to be any unintended consequences of posting that area. Where is it going to force the vehicles?
Right.
To be honest, White Oak's done a pretty good job mitigating the parking.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
On their own property.
Right.
But we did look at posting, so from the stop sign on Waring Road, east 100 feet. And then if you look on the south side of the roadway, it was going to be from the intersection 100 feet east as well.
Okay.
And then 100 feet, if you look at that would be
114?
Yeah,
All around
the
the curve.
southwest
Yeah.
corner there, 100 feet from that corner in both
Right.
directions. The north side of that intersection on the west side is already posted no
Right.
parking.
Right.
So the reason for the additional is for that any unintended consequences of posting what we have in posted.
Have a move.
I have a question for you. 100 feet pretty much comes to the easternmost exit entrance to the parking, right?
For the,
No, it comes
That's 100
actually,
feet. She's showing 100 feet right there.
Yeah, Christina's
Okay.
measuring it now.
so if you had, so I'm coming out of that big square parking, right? I'm coming out right here, right? And if I've got cars parked here and here, can I see very well coming out? I don't know.
Do they come out there, or does that road go into it?
Well, I don't, I think you come and go either way. There's no signs posted entrance, exit,
right.
you know?
It's two-way.
Oh, it is to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also one behind us.
I think so.
You know, if people come through a stop sign, you know,
Right.
well, no, they can catch up speed. I'm just wondering if there's cars right here and right here, looking both ways.
I'd be more concerned of that area that you're talking about to the west, in between both of the driveways, entrances and exit, or to the right, not so much, unless they're trying to go, obviously westbound.
Oh, right,
Both lanes.
right,
If they're
right,
just trying to go eastbound,
yeah.
it's, I don't see an issue with it.
So what do we think about filling in the area between the two entrances, to have no parking go to the
Extend
entrance?
the no parking to the.
The
Yeah,
second, yeah.
If you-
To the
you don't have an objection.
easternmost, yeah.
No, it's
The westernmost.
totally up. Well, you want definitely our public safety officer
No, I mean,
to agree. So that would be on, and also, I'd like to bring in and get Brian's comments
yeah.
on it.
right.
So that's, if you could just look at that
We
again.
definitely take a look at that. I mean, we obviously didn't see that as an immediate hazard
Hazard,
when we were
right.
down there looking at the location, but
Right.
it's kind of like, it looks like there's a tree there kind of blocking exactly where that,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shadow is the
Yeah.
exit for that
Right.
parking area.
we haven't had any issues with that in the past, but we could definitely look at that to see if that's something.
And how far did you, when you
Yeah, great.
posted with the signs, how far do you go?
Went approximately 100 feet.
Oh, you did, so you didn't go all the way to that,
Yeah.
second entrance?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
And then the only other thing on Waring Road is that EMS director requested that we post just opposite the EMS barn, so that if we did push parking
Yes.
down, that's quite a bit,
Right.
that pulling in and out was safe.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be key.
Yeah.
The only other thing at that intersection, go back to the intersection again. Is when you're heading north, right there at that intersection, you come to, whether you want to go left or right there, there's a stop sign there, obviously. And people that are going on 114, heading from the North Ferry to South Ferry, in front of the IGA, a lot of people today put on their blinker, which is very, very helpful for the people making the left-hand turn there. Because what happens is, people that don't put on their blinker, you have to assume, folks, they're going straight. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That they're going straight when you don't see that blinker. I have it forming now that I automatically put the blinker on when I'm going in that direction in front of the IGA to let the person know at the stop sign it's safe to make the left-hand turn. But I notice when I'm there, if I don't see that blinker, wait, because better than 50% of the time, the person's still gonna go that way anyhow, they just don't put their blinker on. But you can never assume that they're not going straight. They don't have a stop sign.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and that's something that, at that intersection, that to me is the most threatening thing, other than, you're right about the parking, but that assumption that somebody is, all the traffic is staying on 114 is erroneous.
Yeah.
And you really have to either see the person make the turn or actually put the blinker on and slow down. And even there, again, until you actually see the tires starting to turn, you shouldn't move out into that
Yeah, you gotta
pathway.
pay attention, yeah.
You do have to pay attention there.
Okay. So if you could just touch base with Brian on extending it, maybe.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, next.
Next location is going to be the four-way.
Yep.
So the four-way, obviously, once Leon opened up, they've been very busy, which is great, but it caused a lot of traffic congestion in that area with parking. People have been parking what was currently lawful along the north side of West Neck Road.
Correct. Yep.
Issues there is it's pretty dark on that roadway at night. And although they're lawfully parked, they're pushing pedestrians and bikers out into the roadway.
Sure.
And it's causing a hazard. So that's been posted last summer, that intersection.
Same thing, Anthony, 100 feet or further?
In that instance, we were gonna go further. So we're gonna go from the white line that you could see on there, which is that stop sign.
Yep.
We're gonna go 4 telephone lines to the east.
Yes.
So along that roadway, once it started to clear up where you could actually get off the roadway, there's a large dip off.
Yep.
Like a ravine, so we
Yep.
didn't want to have people park there because it's a hazard.
Right.
So push it back 4 telephone lines.
Yep.
And then if you look on the south side of that same intersection there on West Neck, we're gonna post right up to the driveway.
Christine, can you blow it up a little?
Right. Okay, just center it, yeah.
Yeah, bigger. No, I just want to see if we can see the poles.
Yeah, I don't know where.
It sort of ends like right across from Eccentric Bagel and like if you go 4 poles up. There, it's
Yeah.
kind of in line with the entrance to
Okay.
their driveway.
Yeah, it's a good distance. Yeah.
So it's really almost in front of the little Verizon house, or, I mean, the farm stand or whatever that is, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And I will tell you, it's just a sidelight, if we do approve that new pathway going up parallel with New York Avenue, having the traffic back there to give visibility to that pathway will be very, very important.
Do you worry at all, Anthony, about, when you come over that hill there, coming down towards, that you'll come over the hill, there'll be cars parked, door open, I don't know.
Wait, about from the beach, if you're coming this way?
the other way. If you're coming from
When we
114.
went down there, we really looked at where somebody could get off the roadway completely.
Right.
And that's where at that
Where it is.
location, for telephone pole,
Yeah.
was where we felt, the 3 of us, it was safe for them to get off the roadway, whether they're pulling into that, the Verizon little stand there. They
Yeah.
can completely get off the roadway.
Yeah.
That's used for overflow. So,
How about the other corners?
yeah, so We go up there, so on the south side, like I said, we go right up to the driveway, so
Yep.
everything in front of the restaurant.
Yep.
If you're looking along New York Avenue, both sides 100 feet. If you're looking on Menantic Road, we were going to go up until the driveway again for Leon, so that corner.
Yep.
Yep.
And then where the tuck shop is, it would go from the intersection, let me just, right to the west entrance of the tuck shop.
Yes, okay, we'll see that.
So block that whole area.
Right, yep.
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 And then if we're looking on West Neck Road, west of the intersection,
Yep.
we were gonna go 100 feet on the north side. And we were only gonna go 95 feet on the south side. The reason for that was it's gonna get us right past the driveway
Yes.
for the West Neck House, I think is.
Yeah, house on the corner, yeah.
So that they were able to see in both directions, exiting their parking lot, that's what we're concerned about.
Right, yep. That's good, good call.
All right.
Like I said, originally, we didn't post all that area in the past. We posted West Neck Road on the east side, and we've also posted some of the intersection on Menantic. We're worried about overflow. Once we start making that permanent, where we're going to put the cars. So
Right.
we don't want those cars to create another hazard.
So we've discussed this before, but we've never formalized it. Every car counts. So at 2:30, 2 o'clock, when the cooks, everybody shows up and they're gonna open up for 5:30, 6 o'clock dinner, you might have 7 or 8 cars that are parked, in the lot already, workers that are there. It would be really advantageous if long around 5 o'clock, 5:30, when the stores closed down, if they could work out an arrangement with an adjacent business or store where they could take those vehicles and move them. Because then the entire parking lot could absorb, be maximized to the extent of putting customers in there. And that would be really, and that would eliminate 7 or 8 cars off the road.
I think like we have the preseason meeting with,
Yeah.
with Sunset Beach, we're gonna need to have one.
Yeah.
Because, fortunately for them, unfortunately, maybe a little for us, is they're very successful.
Right.
And there's a lot of cars.
Right.
So I think there's gonna have to be some type of, agreement with somewhere else to park the cars and maybe do valet parking or something. But it's gonna be an issue.
It looked like they worked out something a little bit with the funeral home. I don't know if that's.
They did for all their help.
Yeah.
But then there still was a tremendous amount of, parking.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess it's a good problem to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we should address it.
But I like that idea of being able to sit down with them and on a one-to-one, because you can explore a bunch of good ideas.
Yeah.
And by the way, if somebody leased that property, could be beneficial for them too.
Yeah, sure.
At a reasonable rate,
Yeah, right.
where make an extra $100 a day or something like that to have
Right.
10 cars parked on their property,
The last location, do you guys have anything else?
That's good. Yep.
Last location's gonna be South Graham Island Drive. So Christine, if you can almost go to like Tuttle Drive, where Tuttle pops out, I think it's right about
Yes,
there.
yeah.
So just the northwest of Tuttle Drive, there's gonna be, you can almost go closer to Tuttle Drive. Right about there. There's a telephone pole in there.
Yeah,
It's pole number 7. You're gonna go from opposite pole number 7 on the north side of the roadway.
Yep.
And mark 286 feet.
Yep.
Which we measured exactly. The reason for this is we marked this area in the past, posted it.
Yep.
It's because people park along that bend, forcing vehicles to go into the
Yes.
opposite lane of traffic, and then vehicles in the other lane.
Yeah.
Right.
Almost goes head-on collision.
right. It's dark and it's white, it's a curve in the road.
And there's no shoulder. So as soon as there was shoulder and somebody could lawfully park,
Right.
we made it lawful for people to park, just trying to mitigate the hazard.
Right.
It's just the one side of the road?
Yeah, just the one side of the roadway, because that's what pushes
On the
people.
north side.
On the south side, people were able to get off on the shoulder of the roadway without an issue.
Pretty much
Marking until they park
Yeah.
perpendicular, right?
Oh, look at that bend. Oh, yeah.
So it's a big sweeping
It
bend.
is a big sweeping bend now.
So, to the property line pretty much, Anthony?
Actually,
It almost goes right up until where their parking starts.
Okay, all right.
yes,
All right.
yeah.
They have a little bit of an opening.
Yeah, I see the little bit right there, yeah.
And there's
Talking almost 300 feet.
embankment on the side, it comes up a little bit, and then there's also vegetation on the side.
Yeah.
Get off the roadway.
Right, okay. That's good.
So Stephen, the current litigation going on, do we, do we need to, what do we need to do to make this?
No, it's just, it's.
Meaning, I don't want it to look like it's selective enforcement.
No, we,
It's an issue we've had in the past, you've documented.
legitimate public health and safety concern that's voiced by a police officer. You have to make a decision whether or not you want to impose the no parking signs.
I have one question about,
Again, just for the record, it's also the highway department that.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, in this area too, if you go down to the stop sign, where it lies and there's that turn. Is there no, is there no parking on the inside, like on
South side of the road?
the
So
south,
there should be no parking.
southwest on that
It's unlawful
curve
to park 30 feet from any
from any stop
intersection.
sign? Okay. I
It's
just wanted to
actually
check.
posted there to tell you the truth, but
Right.
there should be no parking at 30 feet in any direction.
I've done it, climb up there.
That's something we may want to look at, but that's
Yeah.
not something that we posted in the past.
I'm just mostly concerned about on the inside of that, because, people will park and then all of a sudden, like you come up the hill and you go to turn and there's a car parked right there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, Jerry brought it up before, when this is resolved, the litigation issue, it would be not a bad idea to look at the parking issue in there to figure out, is there a better way that, we can get cars off the road and keep that area safe? That's, that was the whole thinking behind moving the dock over is keep people off the road. So keeping the cars off that part is important too. It's all about safety. It's that's what we're looking at, safe situation for everybody.
Stephen, this is done by resolution or how?
No, it's a local law amendment. I have a draft done already. I'm hopeful that we could have it on, when's the March town board meeting? I'm hopeful we can have it on March 14th. We should have, most of the local laws draft already. We're just gonna work on tightening up the exact locations of the no parking. So we should have that at the beginning of March. That's on point for you to review. But it's gonna just be hyper-technical language anyway. But again, so March, we should have this ready to go.
It's a good start, Stephen, because it's three critical areas. I think if, three of the most, and Anthony, three of the most critical areas for safety. Potentially save a life.
These have all been addressed. I mean, in the past, we've had calls,
Right.
supporting this.
Right.
Obviously observe the public health.
Jim, the more I think about it, the dynamics really have changed. Maybe we should have a meeting with the Cheekwood and with the Ramsot, with all four of the big, maybe the Fredwin too.
With everybody,
But individually, not together.
yeah.
Yeah.
But all on the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
On that
Yeah.
theme, because it impacts all of those.
Yeah.
It is becoming an
Yeah.
issue, yeah.
Okay, Anthony, thank you very much.
Any,
Thank you very much, Ed.
Sergeant, can you just stick around for this one other topic, the obstructions? Sure.
Okay, but we're gonna skip that.
we're gonna have Liz real quick, because she has a,
Yeah, Liz Hanley's here, with the Community Housing Board on her maybe lunch break, maybe 15-minute office break.
Yes, thank you.
We're moving forward, the Housing Board is moving forward, and they want to make sure we're all on the same page of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So ADUs are a big issue, where town board's addressing that. We have properties that what's the next step with the ones we own? You're in the housing plan, but maybe we can start with testing the water. And
Yeah.
some things we can do. So Liz, why don't you,
Yeah, so that's what I kind of wanted to come to the town board. So, as we talked about with the housing plan, one of our big focuses is ADUs, and I have something to talk about with that too. But one of the other things that we had talked about the South Ferry site as a potential site for community housing. But before we even go any further in exploring that, we would like to get your permission to do some information gathering on the water quality here, because I feel like that's really, you know what I mean? Like we can kind of that's kind of step one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Step
Before
one
we-
was the environmental, we passed
Yeah, so,
that.
okay, step two,
Yeah.
there's a lot of steps. But really just, I feel like that's the next thing that we need to do and kind of just like understanding, what's possible and appropriate on that site.
Will it just be one test well, do you think?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, you would only need one test well.
Yeah.
And then if you can end up building on that property, then that test well can be converted into the actual well for the property.
Oh, okay.
So it's really just one well.
Community well, or,
Yeah, because it would be
Right.
one well serving multiple buildings.
But we're not even,
To public water system,
Yeah.
just say.
yeah, no, totally, but we're not even there yet.
Yeah, right.
I just
Yeah.
wanna know like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, why
the
spin our
water
wheels,
situation?
exactly.
Can we
Like,
put in a test well?
like, so I just kind of
Yeah.
want to like, again, as part of like our community, like as part of our kind of like information gathering, like I said, just to see like what's possible and what's appropriate environmentally for the site.
Is that something you're comfortable ordering?
No,
Is that-
No,
Joe and
we
Brian.
have-
Joe's
yeah.
fine, okay.
Yeah, but I just wanted to
What you have to do.
Just like in full
Yeah,
transparency.
yeah, that's good, yeah.
And then Amber, when Amber's back, we can talk about
How to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm coming to you,
Yeah.
your dollar bills.
I didn't get a chance yet to look into how we paid for all the environmental testing. 'Cause we'll do
Yeah.
the same type of thing.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I wasn't chairing the committee at that time.
But it also probably eventually the community money.
Yeah, eventually,
Yeah,
eventually
eventually.
that would come from the fund when that's kind of starts. That's what I had. I also just didn't know if you wanted me to talk about ADU. Okay, so the other thing that I'm really excited, we did talk about this at our community housing board, and I just wanted to kind of put it forward to be able to answer any questions that you might have, is in the fall, I have, like not me, but like the community, we partnered with the CDC-LI, Community Development Corporation of Long Island, which is a housing nonprofit on Long Island. Just to be totally real, I thought it was a super, super long shot. So put in an application to the state of New York for an ADU +1 grant. There's only 10 that were gonna be given out for the whole state. And it would be funds administered by the CDCLI, which is a nonprofit, not the town. So I've been communicating, and I helped to write the grant with Gwen O'Shea, the executive director there. And I'm really excited to say that it has become public, that Shelter Island is one of the recipients of the ADU +1 grant for the state of New York, for $2 million. And how that will work is there are going to be grants of $125,000. When we kind of Gwen will be with us to go through the specifics of the contract at the next community housing board.
Grants.
Yeah, so
There's no
Money-
individual, like the IA system
no.
grant.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's only for median income homeowners. It's $125,000 free and clear. It will be administered, so it's like the CDCLI will be working, like paying directly to the contractor, so I think similar to the IA. So that'll be for 16 families. But one of the reasons I chose to, well, also Gwen believed in us, so everybody else was like, are you sure you can get it done on Shelter? I was like, anyway, she believes in us. But the other reason I wanted to partner with Gwen is because the CDCLI is also a community lending institution, which means they're a nonprofit lender. So just like looking at local build costs, I was concerned that $125,000 free and clear is amazing. But especially in the current market, I was concerned that that wouldn't get us all the way there. So they have agreed to come in with under market bridge financing for $50,000 to $75,000, which would bring the potential total 125 free and clear, 75 bridge financing at an under market rate. Again, this is only going to be for median income people, and it is with the understanding, it's in the contracts of that the units shall remain affordable for at least 10 years. There's other, I thought, really cool things about that. So you could retrofit a home to make an affordable unit in there. You could, if you had a garage, you could put like something over the garage, you could put a cottage on the back. Everything has to comply, obviously, with current zoning, so there's nothing there, so that'll, yeah, with all the, so that'll be the job of the community housing board, to help vet those folks, to just kind of understand like, oh, okay, you're a good candidate, or, no, this one is not for you. So we're really, really excited about it. And so we'll have 2 years to kind of work through that money. And there is a possibility, if we're successful, that we will be able to go back to the state for more money. But I was really excited because I just felt like this fit in with what the community told us, was they wanted individuals to be part of the solution. And so anyway, that's
How
what
are you thinking about awarding it? Like,
so we're not going to get to
We're not-
we're not gonna award it, so it's gonna come through the CDCLI.
application?
Yeah, so they're gonna be, again, Gwen will be running through the process with the community housing board. And then I would also like to bring her to the town board to just kind of more fully go through the final contract from New York. So basically what happened is like, the CDCLI is getting the money, but it's earmarked for Shelter Island. Yeah.
They have a similar program that they do with septic grants. So they have a bridge loan that you can get, a very low interest bridge loan for the septic grants. So if the county and state and town funding doesn't fully cover your installation, then you can get a bridge loan. I think it's at like 2% or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't think she's committed to the rate yet.
No, the
I haven't
rate is
pressed her,
variable, but
it's under market, it's under market.
But they've been doing this with other programs. So I worked with them on this before with septic specific grants. So it's a familiar entity in the county.
Has it all the conversation come up? You get a grant, the 10-year, you don't, your assessment doesn't get affected by your new ADU? Or is that something we
It's
just?
something we have to talk about.
That would be.
And also Fred Deal.
And also Fred Thiel's law.
Yeah, there is some
Okay.
legislation that he's kind of thinking about. So like I said, it's our hope and expectation. Once CDCLI signs the contract, the clock starts ticking on that 2 years. So we definitely want to make sure, like Gwen and I definitely have some questions around making sure like what median income rate we're using, making sure that we have clarity on that so we can.
So it has to be median income and lower?
Or lower?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So those are the homeowners.
Right.
Yeah.
Which like I said, I just thought was great because it's just like we're helping our middle-class families help other members of, I was like.
Right.
Hey, 16
Yeah.
homeowners, that's a nice start.
Liz, a couple things.
Yes, of course.
I was under the misunderstanding that Liz and I have known about this for quite a while, a couple months.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, we can't say anything until we get the letter from the governor, because that's who I wrote the letter to. But Liz reminded me yesterday, actually, that we didn't apply for it, CDC did.
Yeah.
So it's a done deal.
Yeah.
And, you know,
If you wrote a letter of support,
So we
which
can't
they
make it
wanted to
right.
see,
Can't
but
make it official, but it is official.
yeah.
So, real quick, so really the town's only real involvement would be the ADU legislation where if we want to put incentives in
Right.
to help people, and also the zoning part of it.
Yeah, so I mean,
That
The
is-
whole building permit process. I mean,
Yeah.
you still have to go and get a building permit and.
Yeah,
and so I just.
but as far as like affordable housing, that's not our,
Yeah, so like, there's nothing really, I mean, obviously, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what was going on. But, how Gwen and I have thought about approaching this is we're just going to move forward under what is currently on the books. If the, you know what I mean, if you guys decide to make a variance for the assessment, like whatever you guys are gonna do, knock yourselves out, that's awesome. But we're just moving forward under like zoning as it stands, assessments as it stands. And really what our hope is with the community housing board is just basically to help like just get the information out there,
Right.
right? So we're gonna be doing some public information sessions with Gwen, and then we're trying to figure out for folks that think that we're gonna put out some information, some pamphlets. And then we're also probably we're thinking about like lightning round like vetting sessions for people that are interested, so we can just like pull up their zoning and like look at their financials and be like, yeah, you should, try it, or like, no, you're in the wrong zone, near shore overlay.
So you're going to bring in some like the building inspector and.
I mean, I haven't asked him yet, but yes, I am.
Because a lot of this stuff gets a little tricky.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
a lot of times people hire attorneys to navigate, zoning and
So,
codes.
yeah, so that is why I was gonna ask, I haven't asked, but I was gonna ask some of the building department, maybe even just to like, once we have like kind of a pool of people like, hey, I might be interested, just to even sit in, and like I said, just like look up
Yeah, sure.
their spot, just
Yeah.
to, because the process with like any state grant is like, there's like paperwork, so I don't want to like waste people's time, so I want to be able to like pre-vet them of just like,
Yeah.
you meet the financial requirements, like it's plausible for your property. So the other thing that, I've done some like reach out is to like nonprofit groups, is to maybe even if a nonprofit wanted to come in to help, because I forgot. Come back to that thought. The other thing that I love about this is, so the grant could also go, we have a lot of seniors on the island. I think a lot about like my family. They have a big farmhouse. My mom has a bad knee. It's like not a great fit. And so they've often thought about, what if they rented out the house and retrofitted an ADU that was more accessible and appropriate for them? So that is a possible use of the money. So, yeah, so my thought would be.
But the house has to be rented for.
Yeah, exactly. So like my parents could retrofit their barn, have a one level for my mom's knee, and rent the big house at an affordable rate, and that works. So one of the things that we're thinking about doing, and I've already done some preliminary outreach, is to like housing nonprofits to, I was thinking for maybe some of the seniors that might be helpful for them to have like an expediter to get through that process, if that was something that was a good fit. So we're trying to come at it from all angles to make sure that the appropriate applicants can go through the process as quickly as possible.
Does CDC LI have kind of consulting capabilities, or, help, to come to a meeting and help people, or that's not their?
That's probably not part of their grant, or not something, but we did talk about, one of the things that they had, we've kind of like, is if we wanted to, like how often some of our very wealthy neighbors hire expediters to get them through the process.
Yeah.
If a nonprofit wanted to come in and do that for a senior who is maybe struggling with the process, or a homeowner, like somebody who is just like having a hard time, that could be something that a nonprofit could come in and help.
Have they teamed up with any other East End towns or towns in Suffolk County that we might be?
So this grant is new for this year.
It's new for the brand new.
Yeah.
for this year.
Somebody else got it too, though.
Southampton got one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I'd recommend
Team up with them a little
like
bit.
I would recommend a pre-submission conference with the building inspector to go through the process. Because again, you're an arm of the town, so now you represent the town. So we should just make it more of your role as a PSA,
Yeah,
and that's the role of the town board.
yeah,
And we should, help them and assist them and educate, of
Yes.
course. But when it gets down to brass tacks, they should really speak to the building inspector so he can fully vet the property for them and let them know if it can happen.
exactly. Well, and that's what I want to invite, like, maybe somebody from the planning department and the building department to kind of do that pre-vets before they do all the paperwork, and it's just like, you're on the
Yeah.
wrong way. So we're gonna try to figure that out. We're gonna have a little bit of time, I think probably like 2 months to be able to put it together. But I would want to just make sure that that Gwen has that final contract from New York, so that I can just like understand the parameters, so that we can do a good job.
Exciting.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Liz,
Congratulations.
the only other concern I have that we need to talk about is, with the Bowditch Road project, the only real rub was that they didn't stay affordable. 25 years later, but they.
So here's the thing, and so this is one of the things that we talked about. So this is mandated from the state. So the state says 10 years. Now, one of the things that I think we can explore to make them affordable for longer is maybe attaching some conditions with that bridge financing. Or the other way to come at it is if any of those lots were only able to have an ADU because they had to use a community housing license, that would keep it affordable. So there's kind of two ways to come at that.
Or yeah,
Or
the
the
town
IA
has,
system.
exactly.
Yeah, so I think it would be the community housing license or, so basically I think that there's some potential for the town to kind of step in on that side, either through, if that project is only possible with a community housing license, that would keep it affordable in perpetuity. Or, and this is something that Glenn and I are talking about, is if it's also with the financing, or maybe a mixture of the both. But that's why I kind of really wanted to get this out here so that we can all have our thinking caps on of just like, how do we make this the best possible?
And I work with Liz, and I know a couple members on developing a pamphlet to hand out, about ADUs. But we need to make it clear it's for informational purposes only.
Yeah.
And, but I think that's good. And it, again, goes towards the mandate of education and educating the public. on the
Exactly, and
process.
so, our goal is to kind of put out as much information so that people can educate themselves as best we can.
And that actually helps us because that's one of the things that the housing plan wanted us to do is to put out an ADU.
Right.
Yeah, so we've actually had like the very beginning of just like a very general one. And the other thing that the Community Housing Board is working on is a technical FAQ. So for people that get that general one and they're like, oh, this is interesting, maybe I want to do it. And then they're like, okay, specifically, what do I need? So there'll be kind of like two levels of that. And then again, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be structured, but our thought would be like kind of like lightning vetting interviews for folks that kind of pre-qualified themselves with those two pieces of information with hopefully somebody from the building department and maybe planning board, just to make sure. And again, these folks would have to go through the regular, like it's just the regular process.
Right.
There's no like special process. My hope is that that the building department will be a little generous with their time just to make sure that they're not getting applications that they can't do anything with. So I'm hoping that it'll be to everybody's advantage.
And Liz, to wrap it up, I just want to thank you publicly for the effort you put into this, because you really have been the driving force. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and I'm just really excited.
Yeah, should be.
I really appreciate your guys' support.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to go back to the agenda and go back into Brian Sherman's here now, Highway Department. So Brian and Sergeant Randall, we're going to begin a discussion, which we've had before, but we've never really gotten to the next step, is obstructions in right-of-ways. We have some areas that are outright dangerous, others that are, inconvenient. We had a situation where we wanted somebody to clean the side of their, the shoulder of their road, and they said, well, make the neighbor across the street do it, and I'll do it. So I think we need to address these. So I don't know how you guys want to just touch base with Brian, how we're going to identify them and what we're going to, what the plan is.
All right.
And Stephen, what the law is, what we're allowed to do.
Yeah, so you have a copy of it. I prepared a draft local law for obstructions. And now this fills in the gap. Like Brian has the inherent authority to remove certain obstruction pursuant to New York State highway law. However, vegetation is not one of them, for the most part. Noxious weeds and things like that. But a hedge that is cared for, is not a noxious weed. And other, ornamental vegetation is not noxious. So we have to adopt the local law to fill in that gap and give the authority to the town to remove certain obstructions in the right of way if they cause a hazardous condition. So if you look at what I gave you, we have definitions of an obstruction and right of way. The obstruction definition is material located within the boundaries of a highway, including the right of way or shoulder that interferes with public travel, whether vehicular, by bicycle, or foot, including vegetation, and I just threw in like lumber, wood or logs, rocks, pipes, fencing, and athletic equipment. I don't know if we have a lot of issues with this, but other communities have issues with basketball hoops in areas. I don't know if that's rampant here. I don't notice it much.
Would you want to add signage? An obstruction could be a sign in the right of way. Like, I'm thinking of election season. Normally signs are low, but sometimes you get ambitious people. And they put it high enough so you try to get out of your driveway and it's like
Yeah, no.
think about it.
Political sign, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
according to county law, has to be on private property. If it's in the right of way, we have a right to take it.
Correct.
So, okay, so at the end of my driveway, if they're right there in that little, at the edge, I could take them down?
No, but we went over this past season, you remember, and we have the quirk in the law that you can put signage in right of way if you have the permission of the town.
Right.
Town of the homeowner.
The town. We sort of didn't adhere to that.
Yeah.
But there's also a provision in the zoning code that I found subsequently that prohibits signage in rights of way without, again, official permission. So anyway, that's a separate issue that I think we're going to discuss on
So you're saying it doesn't belong here?
I think not. These are like more permanent structures.
Okay, gotcha.
And the main purpose for this is vegetation. I just threw these other things in because arguably these other things are covered by his inherent authority through state highway law to remove.
So Stephen, okay, so if we adopt the new law going forward, that's in place. What about everything that's already there?
What do you mean?
Grandfather,
No, there's no grandfather. This isn't zoning. This is in the administrative code.
okay.
So
I
that
think one of, like you just said, Jerry, most of these areas have been constant complaints because you can't get off the side of the road or there's hedges.
They're dangerous.
On the road.
Yeah.
Where previously, previous superintendents either couldn't do anything about it or just really hasn't been done. So we're trying to do something to make the road safer and to address
I'll wait for an accident
complaints.
to happen, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the definition of obstruction is what it is. Again, material located with the boundaries of a highway that interferes with public travel. And then the right of way is the land owned by the state, county, or town, which is occupied or intended to be occupied by a road, sidewalk, and/or utility lines. The right of way shall include the road, the sidewalk, any grass area or shoulder.
So Stephen, how do we determine, I know the rule of thumb is 20 feet from the middle of the road each
Survey.
way, but,
Survey.
okay.
That's the only way we can, prosecute or, remove, if we're going to remove ourselves upon notice, is with a survey. And so it's not that we have to go out and resurvey properties. We have it in the building
Yeah, right.
department.
Yeah.
People's, surveys, for the most part.
Yeah,
So then the prohibition would be obstructions prohibited shall be prohibited for any person, firm, corporation to cause, permit, or allow any obstruction to exist within the right of way. It shall be the responsibility of the property owner to immediately remove all obstructions within the right of way adjoining their property and to restore the right of way to its original condition and design. So if the police department or the highway superintendent makes a determination that there is an obstruction, they're the entities who can serve notice. So you have to give notice to the adjoining property owner and give them the opportunity to voluntarily cure the condition. Unless there's an immediate danger, we give that authority to the police officers and the highway superintendent to, if there is an immediate danger to take emergency,
Is there a
precautions.
timeline associated to that? Like you have 60 days to,
I didn't put an exact time. It depends on the nature of the obstruction and location. Some are more dangerous than others, so I didn't want to put a set timeline.
some are easier to remediate than others.
Exactly. Some are, a hedge that's been there for 80 years and some are flowers. And then they would have, the form of the notice is there. It has to be served either personally or certified return receipt requested. Now, if upon notice, the adjoining owner does not remove the offending obstruction, the highway department will remove that vegetation or obstruction, and all the costs shall be a lien on the property that can be foreclosed upon with the Supreme Court action, or it would be assessed against the property, similar to what we do with the unsafe structures. And then lastly, the penalties. In addition to that, it will be up to a $2,000 fine, up to 15 days in jail, which is a violation, per day. So, like, again, in these particular cases, they're really a legitimate health and safety concern. And that's why I'm arguing for a higher fine and make it per day, because, that can add up and make people, take remedial action quicker.
I know, because when I first started reading, I think, a big deal for $2,000, I say, I'm not gonna do it. But if it's per day, it's a whole different ballgame.
Now, let's say we have an elderly homeowner who can't get out there and do it themselves, and they don't necessarily have the money to hire someone. Can they just give the highway department permission to take it down?
Oh,
And then-
Can we do it that way?
And
And then,
assess them.
Yeah.
Throw it on. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what it needs, though. Maybe, if you want to make, that maybe there's a process you can claim, poverty, hardship, that's the word, right? And then, then we need to see a tax return and, you're already receiving the senior exemption, which is income-based. You know what I'm saying?
How do you feel about that, Brian? That hardship?
And we do it gratis because we want it done.
Some of them we have kind of taken care of.
You got
With
it.
the homeowner being,
Come to the podium.
just working with the homeowner, saying, look, we need to cut back the side of the road because it's encroaching, actually, it's in the highway. And most people will work with us.
Yeah.
We've done that in the past. It's some of these other larger ones that have been established for so long, that are gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can still work together to solve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could throw like a sentence in there that the town board can waive costs upon showing a financial hardship or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
I would be more comfortable with that,
Yeah.
especially the way you described it, PJ.
Yeah.
The other thing is, two things. Number one, not stating the number of days to remediate.
It does, to remediate.
To remediate, if you're giving me the option of doing it, if I have no limits on.
Oh, no. It will be in the notice, a date certain.
But it'll be
But I'm not putting a
dependent.
date certain in the code because it could be,
Okay.
it can be variable depending on
Sure.
the type
The
of,
complexity of the
Yeah.
situation.
Yep.
That's it, that is excellent. The other thing is, the old theme has always been, we try to advertise this, if you do it and have your gardener do it, you can probably remediate it to a more satisfactory level to convince it, like, wow, this is acceptable, as opposed to town coming in going right to the marker and just taking.
That's correct, because a lot of my guys aren't landscapers.
In other words, I mean, we went that route to try to encourage people to do it on their own, not because we did not want to do it, but because it would be less of an issue if they did it. I mean, quite honestly, these hedges that come right to the road where there's, and not only is it unsafe for drivers, but for walkers, joggers, people, anybody out on the roadway. If you were to cut it back 5, 6, 7 feet at least, maybe more. But, if we're going back 20 feet, we're taking out the whole bush. I mean, that's basically what it's.
So, but you'd have to retransplant them.
You would.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of areas where we know it's gonna be hard to do, but it looks like it could still
Right.
be a hard cutback, still be nice. It's just getting enough room so people can at least walk on the shoulder of the road in case they have to get off the road.
But in no way, shape, or form is highway department into transplanting. You're not into transplanting. So I'm saying that people that have well-established 25, 30-year-old hedges, could they be transplanted and moved? Yes, they could be. At the right time of the year, be done the right way. Town's not going to do that. Town's got to come in and eliminate that. So I think people have to understand that. Are you more motivated to do it yourself and to save it's a reconfiguration.
Yeah, and then we're not really trying to, we're just trying to be trying to get people to be more safe on our.
Health and safety.
Yes, health, yes.
Yeah,
We're not trying to bust anybody.
Yeah, and the thing is, Brian's reasonable, so he's not gonna say, our right of way is all the way to here, you must clear cut that. He's gonna determine
Right.
what would be a safe cutback.
Right.
So you could, we're not saying you can't have anything in the right of way.
Yeah.
It's something that impedes.
I just
traffic.
want to emphasize that any correspondence that goes to homeowners should state that. Should be very clear about you taking the initiative versus the town taking the initiative. Here are the advantages of you taking the initiative, and doing it, within this timeframe.
Yeah, because of the last couple of years and COVID and people staying here longer, a lot of complaints around the area.
Yes, there are.
And people were frustrated, rightly so, they're saying, listen, this is town's property, how could they have this on town's property, and why aren't you doing anything? Because, again, it exposes the town to liability if we don't have this law. So that's the importance of this law. You have to have it, and then the liability, if there is an accident, transfers from the town, now the owner, if they don't remediate it. So that's another important thing, that liability transfers with this law.
Yeah.
And particularly when they're on notice and they don't do anything about it.
Yes. And by the way, if an accident and there's a fatality or a serious injury at this intersection because of the town's failure to have something like this in place or to have notified, are we at all liable? Because,
Absolutely.
yeah, sure. So that people have to understand that as well.
Yeah, and
That, in this day and age where everybody's suing everybody over the most
Right.
unbelievable things, it's a measure to save taxpayer money. We don't want to be sued for this. And we're doing it for a number of reasons. Obviously, health and safety being at the top of the list, but protecting the taxpayer and Shelter Island and the town of Shelter Island is another major reason why in this age of litigation.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Good, thank you.
So what's the next step on this, actually?
We're gonna set it for a public hearing March or
14th?
March 14th or the next meeting. It's ready to go now.
Okay.
So if you want to set it for March, we'll set it.
And are you drafting some kind of letter or something to send out to everybody? Or are you drafting a letter, or how are we doing it?
No. We're first things first, we're passing.
No, but how do you see it,
Well, okay, so we have like a list already that's prepared by the
Right.
police department and Brian's.
Right.
office. And, yeah, I'll work with them to prepare the notice.
The only, very important here because time of the year, the quicker we do it, preparing for
Yeah.
spring, the easier it is to take this corrective action and save the bush and move it in. You can cut it at any time, 12 months a year. Obviously, if no snow on the ground stuff, you go in even with snow. But if the homeowner has the option, the ideal time to be able to do it, March and April will be the ideal time to do this before it buds out and now you're moving a much heavier, larger, fully blossomed bush, and trying to move it. It's
Right.
Because we already, prepared a notice initially trying to shoehorn this situation into his inherent powers, and I just didn't feel comfortable
Yeah.
legally doing that.
Yeah.
So we do have the bones of a notice already.
Okay. Ryan, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks again.
Rod, when you leave, could you just check with Joe and get a date for New York Avenue? He's here. Just email it to me and tell me what's a good time to meet on New York Avenue. I'll get Stella and hopefully Jerry.
Yeah.
And the five of us will go, right?
Okay, next thing on the agenda has to do with our boards and committees. We've been having issues twofold. One is that it's hard at certain times of the year, mostly right now, to get everybody to attend in person because the governor changed the regulations. If you're here on Zoom without an accepted excuse, you're not part of the meeting. The other part is we also have been having problems without a clerk, and hopefully that'll be solved within the next week or two. We have interviewed, and I think we're ready to move forward with that. But BJ, you want to talk about, the one potential?
Yeah, so, who was it, did I say Alvarado? Was it Alvarado? I believe.
I think it was
Alvarado,
Al, yeah.
MAC, who said, what about appointing alternatives?
Alternate,
Alternates.
not alternative.
Okay, yeah,
But
I'm
that's-
going with the gender issue here. Yeah, alternates to each committee that might want it. I mean, I think that it should be committee generated if we decide to go forward with it, but that being that you have one or two members who are interested in the topic, want to attend, and are there to step in so you don't expand the committees, because expanding the committees then comes with well, now you need more members to attend for quorum. So somehow you don't mess with the quorum requirement, but in a pinch, one of the alternates can step up, be there in person to fulfill
Almost
the
like an
quorum.
alternate jury
Right,
type of thing.
right, exactly.
Legally, is that something we can do?
Yeah, so there is sort of precedence that's in New York State law regarding zoning board of appeals. The town's allowed to appoint alternate members, or authorize the appointment of alternate members for conflict of interest purposes. Other towns have, to me, that it's pretty limiting for conflict of interest purposes. Other towns have broadened that to include, for absences of other members. But again, that's apples and oranges. So that's dealing with the ZBA per se. These are advisory committees that are creatures of the town via resolution for the most part, or sometimes it's codified in the code.
And if I can interrupt, that stand in for departments.
Yeah.
In other towns,
Correct.
right?
So I would say it's fine doing it. We'd have to look at the enabling resolutions and maybe amend those to allow for alternates. So I think first things first, we should send an email out to the committees to see who would want to avail themselves of alternates. And then on a case-by-case basis, maybe just amend the reso.
Christina and Amber, I think that puts it.
Yeah. I would like the liaisons to be part of that input there, not just the committees, because I do feel there's another advantage. The other advantage is that it's the person on deck. This is an opportunity for somebody to join a committee,
What's
be an
your point?
alternate, listen, participate in discussion, can't vote, but participate, possibly fill in a position in an emergency situation, or when a spot opens up, we have somebody that has experience and we've made a judgment. Have they attended meetings? Are they the kind of people that volunteer information at the meetings? Are they actively involved? So it gives the liaison a much better opportunity to make a judgment on the alternate, saying, you know what, we don't need to interview. We've got somebody here to move right into that position. If something happens to a member during their 3-year tenure or whatever, I just think it's a great idea.
Okay,
For more than one reason.
Right, for more than one reason. Right.
okay, so again, what's the next step? How do we?
Next step, they're going to contact the committees and the liaisons are going to go and speak to the committees, and then they'll come back to us and say which ones.
Okay.
And once we know which ones, we'll figure out logistically how to make it happen.
The other thing about that alternate, but just real quick,
Original rep.
is if you have a specific need on a committee, legal means, something that, a financial need,
Expertise,
an
yeah.
expertise, that too can serve as an alternate. That too is, you're getting the information to the other committee members of voting, but the person's there.
Great idea. Great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah. No, really good. Yeah. The expertise especially, yeah. We take 2 minutes.
Like it.
I don't have all you.
Let's go around the table, but it's got to be quick.
Yeah,
because we have,
mine's quick.
Okay,
I think you're it,
You
Jim.
start, Jim.
All right, BJ, very quickly, we had met for an hour across the street yesterday with the Restoration Committee on the Comprehensive Plan, went extremely well. Hopefully, BJ did a nice job in terms of providing that, we're trying to get this plan that more closely reflects what's actually being offered by the Recreation Committee. And we also tried to project ahead what our needs might be going forward in terms of fit center and things like that. So that went very well. Good turnout by the committee. The CAC, I did the meeting last night. Since we're on a tight schedule, I'm not going to go through it. It's all distributed to you. I highlighted it. We went through the applications. The only thing I will tell you is that the CAC does want to remain active in reviewing applications and even special permit applications as well. And by the way, one of the things, I'll sum it up in this. We had people on Zoom last night. We were not just Matt Sherman and other people, but almost every application was represented.
that's good.
And we were able to give feedback, and nobody took issue with these recommendations. And we had recommendations for even the special permits, which they appreciated, but said, we're on it. We'll get it. We're going to add that to the application. So it was a great way to get them heads up and get the application, moving forward. So I was very pleased about that. And And the other thing I covered on the meeting on New York Avenue, I want to get that done this week, so I wanted Brian and Joe to meet, give us a time. I'll call Stella immediately. Two of us, let's go over there and let's go see what we can do with that pathway. Talk about safety.
Yeah, thanks,
Again,
Jim.
another thing.
Yep, okay. Meg,
I got nothing.
good? BJ?
No, nothing.
Steven?
Yeah, real quick. I did some research into resolutions because I know they've been the bane of the town board's existence, reading verbatim and resolutions. So there is no legal requirement that you do so. So I think the town board needs to decide how they want to do it. You can just do it like a global, like, make a motion to adopt resolutions 1 through 100. And then you can do it that way and not read any of them.
Yes, so Southampton does.
But just make sure that, you make the public aware where they can be found.
Or also, when we look at them, if there's anything, when any of us want to discuss,
Oh, yeah,
we won't group it, we'll do that.
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that would expedite the meetings and, because again, it takes a lot out of you guys to do that.
exhausting.
And then have to roll into hearings.
Okay.
So if you'd like to do that, you can.
Okay,
Oh, what is that, over the course of a year? It's a week.
yeah. Henry, you have anything? Okay, anybody in the audience? Julie, you have any questions?
Nothing, thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'm going to make a motion. We go into executive session because we have an interview to work on.
Second?
All those in favor?
Bye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Right.